if you want to ruin a party, start talking about that. I think the prerequisite skills I would need to live that sort of a life have sort of passed me. A really beautifully sung, devastating song that kind of sounds like it's sung by the Cookie Monster a little bit. Well, Timmy sacrificed one of the goats. Yeah. And that's just, that's one of the miracles of life. That's a little overstep.
Welcome back to the Isaac Abrams Show, everybody. I'm your host, Isaac Abrams. Today's very special guest, actor, writer, comedian, philanthropist, and short-term boat captain.
Hell yeah, dude.
Dan Donohue.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks for being here, Dan.
Of course.
We had a great chat. This intro is being recorded at the end of the episode. We've been doing that lately. We cover all kinds of shit.
It's smart. Yeah, we did. I said a lot of really crazy, revealing things in this episode.
Yeah. We're gonna get canceled, probably.
There's a lot of crazy. The stuff that I said. I mean, you should be arrested for even listening to it.
Yeah, and then the reveal about the relationship to celebrity Hollywood at the end is going to really blow your top.
And I do a lot of call outs. We do a lot of beefs. I'm beefing with a lot of people now.
Oh, the beef.
Yeah.
It's like a fucking au jus in here.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm smelling the sizzle, dude.
Enjoy the episode, everybody. Thanks for watching. Dan Donohue.
Hello.
Are you related to
Phil?
Yeah.
No.
That'd be cool.
I wish it was.
Yeah.
Damn, I'd get a little respect in this fucking town.
Right. But that you don't want that to be your one credit. It's like, this next guy's
fine with it. No, I'd be fine with it. I would love anything.
Dude, just tell people that.
Yeah, I should actually.
This next guy's Phil Donohue's nephew. No. I lie in my set from the time I get on stage. I tell people I was in a boy band.
I should.
Yeah.
I should be like, yeah, I'm Phil Donohue's estranged son.
Right.
Yeah.
Because who's the other Phil? Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil.
His son does, he's got a whole
does Dr. Phil's son have a comedy career?
He's not a comedian, but he's he doesn't have to work. So
doesn't have to work.
Schmoozing.
That rocks.
Yeah.
He's probably tall too. Yeah, you know what?
Super handsome.
Hey, Phil Donohue's son, Dan Donohue here. How is everybody?
I wonder if you could be his grandson.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's true.
And it's harder to check.
Depends if Phil was out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder if he was.
Yeah.
He probably was.
I mean...
Well, I really don't... I've never seen his show. Was it like an off-branch of a Dr. Phil type show?
Picture Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
Classy.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but he went in on people.
Sure.
Jerry just took it to an exponential level.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? He'd be like, we found out that right. It wasn't the baby daddy thing that.
Oh yeah, I thought you meant like a classy. I thought like they would be like, you are the baby's father, and the guy would be like, oh bother.
Yeah. No.
No. Oh drat.
They just speak in the king's English.
Yeah.
Instead.
Oh no. I am scandalized.
Yeah. No, he was like a more of an investigative kind of dude, and he would do a little bit of an Oprah interview, and then go out in the crowd and take questions, that's what would heat it up. Yeah, Jerry Springer kind of took a page out of his book.
Took it to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, Phil Donohue's son here. How's everybody? I had a big tuna sandwich before this, which is like a really bad thing to do.
In the heat of the day.
I don't know why I did it.
Did it have mayo on it?
Sometimes I'll wait to eat, and then I'll become like kind of feral, and then I'll eat just like the most cursed amalgamation of food you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Whatever's around.
Yeah, or even if, for some reason when I'm hungry, even if if I have choices, I'll pick the worst one.
Okay.
Not even in terms of health, in terms of like what I actually want to eat.
Right.
I don't know if that happened. I don't know if that's a personal thing, but I'll be really hungry. I'll go to a sandwich shop and I'll leave and I'll be like, I just got like a boiled egg on bread for some reason. I don't know why I did.
And what you really wanted was already in there.
Yeah, it was just say like capicola. There was great sandwiches where I went, and I got the disgusting tuna sandwich.
And you left half of it in the car.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did it.
Are you a big tuna guy?
No.
Yeah?
No.
Right.
No, it's fine. I'm not a huge fan of it. I just made a bad call.
Yeah, that happens.
I'd be a horrible coach.
Well, they say that, you got to create new life experiences to have stuff to talk about.
you have to create new life experiences to have stuff to talk about.
Like if you just go through your same routine day in and day out, you're going to have a boring life. But if you make weird choices, now you have...
That's true, but I feel like that could be used by a very annoying sect of the population.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That sounds like something where it's like, no, I didn't bring you your food on time because I'm going crazy today. You know what I mean? Like
right.
that.
It doesn't apply to the service sector.
It doesn't apply to almost anyone other than self-employed people like us.
Right. Entertainers need to make bad choices to have stuff to talk about.
And by the way, they make enough bad choices already.
Yeah.
That's so funny. It's like, I mean, also, the bad choices they make are so much better than the bad choices that like they probably try to manufacture. You know what I mean? Where they're like, I'm gonna have an extra drink, and it's like, oh no, the bad choice you really made was writing a recommendation letter for your friend who was convicted of sexual assault. You know what I mean? Right. Like that was the quirky decision. That was you being a little quirky.
Yeah, and it's like from someone whose opinion wouldn't even move the needle.
Oh God,
like you're working at Applebee's, but you're like, my friend's not a sex offender.
Swear, I mean, it happens all the time. Yeah. I am positive. Yeah.
There were some celebrities that just came out in support of a football player that got falsely accused of sexual assault.
Interesting.
I think it was I don't want to say who it is because I don't really know exactly, but I think it was Mila Kunis and her husband Guy.
Oh, a football player?
Yeah, they were friends with him, and it turns out...
I think that was an actor.
Maybe.
Unless they're just writing letters left and right now.
They have a nonprofit.
Unless they're just going at it now. Yeah, Ashton is like, I stopped sex trafficking, and on my off days, I just write letters to judges for whoever is getting convicted.
Anybody that's been accused of sexual or physical abuse.
I just write the letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard of that, but yeah. So anyway, no, I've had a pretty boring few days, and yeah, I've thought that before. I've thought like you need to manufacture dumb things to happen in your life to like whatever write better, but I really do feel like enough weird stuff happens. You just have to be aware of it.
Yeah, I'm talking about like if you take the same way home every day, maybe you take a left instead of a right. Like just nominal things that could like show you something that you wouldn't normally see. But I think you're right. When people are like actively trying to make weird choices,
it's so annoying to me.
You can smell it.
It's so annoying to me. Yeah, and that's not like if you have. It's the manufacturedness, because there are people who make weird choices that I have no issue with.
Yeah.
There are people who make weird choices that I have but it's because it's like genuine to them.
It's authentic.
There's something authentic about it. But then when there's people who are like, aren't I wearing such a stupid hat today? It's like, I don't care. Shut up.
Right. They point at themselves. It's just like, look at all the quirky things I'm doing. No, dude.
I call it like funny t-shirt syndrome, where people, people who tend to wear who try to wear funny t-shirts tend to be the worst to talk to, which is weird because it's like, I like laughing at stuff. I like funny things, but for some reason, something about putting the t-shirt on, and that's not all. Listen, I'm sure there's some people who do it ironically that are very funny.
Yeah.
I have like a lot of
You're all good.
Sorry. I have a lot of friends in Brooklyn who will wear Who Farted shirts, and they're funny, but they're kind of doing it tongue in cheek.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they're reversing it back on themselves. Yeah. But you also have a pretty tight t-shirt game.
I appreciate that. Today in particular, I actually only have 3 like t-shirts with everything else is blank, but I have 3 t-shirts with logos on them or like printing on them.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are Micheal McDonald t-shirts.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of them.
One of the 2. Yeah.
Wow. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
This is kind of like the casual one, and then the other one is like the dress Micheal McDonald shirt.
Are we big Micheal McDonald fans?
Huge.
Really?
Huge.
Did you hear his track with Ben Rector called Range Rover?
Oh, I actually haven't.
It's very good.
Whoa, interesting.
Yeah.
He does collabs left and right, which is I awesome. Find okay. And not to get too deep into Micheal McDonald,
we could go an hour on Micheal if you want.
So, Micheal McDonald, obviously, duets out the wazoo, an insane amount of duets, an insane amount of collaborations. I don't know. Like, obviously, he's a generational talent, like great voice. The people he does duets with are usually also good, but a duet with Micheal McDonald is so particularly funny because his voice is so out of left field. It doesn't matter who it is. Like he does a song with like Aretha Franklin, and it's so funny because it's like 1.5, 2 minutes of Aretha Franklin, and then like her voice cuts out, and they just hear like. It's like it's so jarring to hear him in a duet sometimes because it's like, man, this is so out. Your voice is so out of left field.
Yeah, and if he came out today, he probably wouldn't make it.
I don't know. I do really think there. So I have a theory about this. Why Micheal McDonald is to me personally. This is not I'm not a musician. I'm not musically minded. For me personally, he has the greatest voice ever.
Okay.
Because his voice is this perfect mix between beauty and funny. And usually those two things never collide.
Yeah.
Usually those two things are polar opposites. Yeah. Right? But for some reason, his voice is both at one point like silly, and you can almost like some of the songs you'll almost like start laughing because he just goes for it so hard.
Right.
But also, I mean, it's just sonically perfect and beautiful at the same time. It's very interesting to me.
And because when it is funny, it's not haha at him funny.
No, it's just like, whoa.
Like, wow, funny.
Uncanny, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I see that. That's interesting. Would you classify Micheal McDonald as yacht rock?
Many people would, yeah. I guess, like, the stuff he did with, like, Doobie Brothers, definitely yacht rock. Like, the stuff he did with Kenny Loggins, I think it is probably definitely yacht rock.
Yeah.
But I would say a lot of his solo work definitely goes more into the soul vein. Like he has 2 separate Motown cover albums, so that's obviously. Did you not know that?
I did not.
Yeah, he has 2. He has Motown 1 and Motown 2 that I think he released 2 years or 1 year apart from each other.
Wow.
So he was just like he just did. That's the other. I mean, there's so many things I love about Michael. I'm gushing a little bit right now.
Let's go.
But the other thing I love is he seems to truly just do whatever he wants. He's just like, I want to do a Motown cover album. And it's like, okay, so you want to do an album that you wrote next? He's like, nope, another Motown cover album. And by the way, he crushes every song.
Yeah.
And in another world, I think if a white guy came out with 2 back-to-back Motown cover albums, any other white guy, he would be rightfully completely panned for it. If Michael faulted on one of those songs,
right,
you're smeared.
Right.
You're so screwed.
You're done.
And he towed the whole line. He told the line the whole way. It was
How
great.
long ago did he put those out?
I think that might have been the 80s, like late 80s, early 90s, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I could be wrong on that.
Man, I'm going to listen to those on the way home today.
Yeah, but then his other, like his first solo album, If That's What It Takes, that's sort of in the middle. Like some of it is kind of yacht rock, and then some of it is very like low ballads. He has one song, I Can Let Go Now, I think is what it's called. And again, it's so funny because it's like a really beautifully sung, devastating song that kind of sounds like it's sung by the Cookie Monster a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. Obviously, I love listening to him, but like there's a quality to his voice that is like a beautiful absurdity.
Right, because he kind of sings out of the back of his throat
I don't know.
little bit.
He sings out his like shoes. I don't know how he does it. Yeah.
But I think like the guys that started singing cock rock, like Stained and like early 90s, like you're like that, the back of the throat rock.
Yeah.
I think that they grew up listening to Micheal McDonald.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They learned it as a technique and they were like, I just want a little bit more guitar.
Yeah.
And I want to sing about like my problems.
Would that be Pearl Jam?
Pearl Jam is the biggest example of like back of your throat singing.
Back of your throat singing, yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, that's so funny. With your musical background, like, were you a vocalist?
No, I was a bass player.
Bass player.
I sang backups, but not well. I don't know how to harmonize.
That's still fun.
Yeah.
That must be, as a bass player singing backup, that must be fun because you just kind of jump in a little bit.
It was more going like, like we were kind of pop punky a little bit, but then I would try and sing like high harmonies, but I didn't hit them very often.
Dude, singing is like the most vulnerable thing you can do. Do you ever, I do this all the time. I'll like sing along to something in my car. And this is how much of, I think, like an egomaniac I can be. I'll be singing along to something in my car. And I usually don't do that. But whenever I do, within the first 5 seconds, I'll be like, man, I think I could really sing.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be like, oh, wait a minute. Am I a generational talent?
Yeah.
And then I will take out my voice recorder.
No.
And I'll record myself singing and then listen back to it. And, dude, it is so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
I was in theater in high school, but then I got into musical theater, like Broadway stuff.
Oh, cool.
And I heard a story about the guy who played Doogie Howser. I can't remember his name, but he was listening to the Rent soundtrack, the Broadway production of Rent. And he listened to it and sang in the car so much that he just decided that he wanted to play the lead character in the San Francisco production.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, okay. So I started listening to Rent in my car, and I started singing along, and I was like, I'm never going to get cast in any Broadway play ever.
Oh, so your initial reaction to your own singing was, this is not good.
I think I'm great.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But I know I'm not.
That's good.
But I will sing on stage sometimes. I'll sing a little riff.
Yeah, no, I don't really know where it comes from, but I have to listen to myself to remind myself that I can't do it. It's such a crazy inclination. Like, this comes up when guys talk about, or when I think a lot of guys think about fighting. I think a lot of people, I'm not going to generalize to guys. I think guys might think about fist fighting a little bit more than women generally.
Oh, I think about it all the time.
Yeah, but I don't think that's like, I think everybody, when they have a concept of how they would do in a fight, it's generally like way out of proportion. Like, when I was younger, I would picture myself like, man, if anybody tried, I would beat up like 3 guys at once, and here's how I would do it. Which is so funny because you understand that every other thing takes like a lot of practice and a lot of like technical skills and stuff like that. Not that it's all that, but for some reason with a fist fight, you go like, I just figure it out. My body just knows what to do.
Instinctually, I'll just develop
absolutely,
skills.
I would just know how to throw kicks that my flexibility wouldn't even allow.
Right.
And I certainly wouldn't just cry and probably shit myself and then get my ass kicked while crying.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen.
The concept of a kick in a street fight is so funny.
Oh, the beautiful thing about videos is there's so many videos of guys kicking in a street fight, and it's the best.
Yeah.
Because it either goes like really, really wrong or it's amazing.
The best ones I like are the like 2 or 3 guys that are like clearly drunk, but they're ganging up on a guy who's being polite, and he's like, guys, you don't know what you're doing. Back up. And then one of them steps forward and he's just like, kapow! And he just takes all 3 of them out. And then there's that one girlfriend in the back.
I think I know this is so funny. And we should be reading books, but I've seen that exact video that you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen the exact video.
I love that video.
Yeah, there's certain things that are captured on film that really like, but I do wonder, my thought after all that is like, do you think the guy, and I really am asking because I don't know, do you think that the guy and his girlfriend who got beat up, do you think they kind of, after that happened, like the next morning or whatever, was like, man, what were we doing? Or do you think they're like, that guy was an asshole?
Well, it's definitely not their fault in their mind.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
If you're the guy that has to gang up on another dude with your buddy, then you've never done anything wrong.
Interesting. So by context clues, you've sort of made out the fact that you think this guy would be
right.
Like
one guy tried to sneak up behind the other guy, sucker punch him, and then he got dealt with too. They both he got knocked out 2 times.
Right.
The big tall guy in the shorts got back up. He was like, dude, just stay down, man. We're good. But then my next thought is, who's filming it?
Right.
Nobody looks at the camera. So is the guy filming it on the same side as the MMA guy? Is he like, I'm just calling him an MMA guy.
Sure.
Because I don't know what else to call it.
Sure.
But like, let's say you and I are out at a bar.
Yeah.
And I know that you got Chuck Norris type skills. And
you're going to take your phone out.
3 dudes are like, fuck you. I'm going, no, fuck you. And I'm going to film it and I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel.
He just has a professional videographer following him at all times whenever he's walking around in like 6th Street in Austin.
Yeah,
just get the camera rolling. Something's going to happen.
I got an 8K like Red Dragon out there with like cinema camera.
I don't know, because I probably think too much about the videos instead of just enjoying them. And again, I should just be reading. But sometimes when I watch a video like that, while it is certainly like a form of, if like guys are trying to attack you and it's 3-on-1, obviously like that's a justified form of self-defense, but I still can't help but feel really bad for a guy who gets knocked out in front of his girlfriend. There's something so particularly carnally brutal about that. And the funny thing is, well, not funny, it's sad, but the thing is that must happen all the time.
Every day.
Every day a guy gets knocked out in front of his girlfriend, and at least a few times the girlfriend has been like, ew. Yeah. You know what I mean?
This is over.
At least a couple times.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's me like projecting, but like it really does put something in my like stomach that doesn't sit right. Like,
I like to think that the guy who was unjustifiably like attacked by multiple people also wins the fight, but also gets the girl.
It would actually be really funny, because that's the picture a lot of guys who watch way too many movies and probably jerk off like a little bit too much and should talk to people more. Like that's our concept of like how things should work.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I completed a task, I deserve pussy now. But it's funny because like living in the real world, and you realize that's not generally the case. I love the idea of that guy just like also not being able to talk to girls. You know what I mean? like a woman come up to him after and is like, oh my God, you just beat up those 3 guys. And he's like, yeah. I gotta go.
He's like, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. That's funny. But that's how we were taught in the movies in the 80s.
It's how we were taught in the movies.
We saw the Karate Kid get his ass kicked.
Right.
And then when he comes back and wins, the girl falls in love with him.
And then he deserves pussy. Yeah. Because it's like pussy, having sex with a woman is like a trophy that you earn from accomplishment.
Right. From a karate tournament.
And not something she actually wants.
Yeah. When in reality, men have there's no such thing as game.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
I think you can talk all the game you want to, but if you're not talking to the right woman at the right time, you have to be standing in the right place.
Also, it's like, like those sorts of things, like the like trophy concept of sex is like just so, I mean, it's ruined so many people's psyches. Also, like I get what you're saying. Like I've had a lot of friends who are like very they're like very good at like talking to women, and they're very good at like but it's almost always guys who just make women feel comfortable. That's all. I had a buddy who was like that, and one of my friends and him like hooked up, and I was really curious. So I asked her. I was like, what is it particularly about him? And she was like, this phrase has stuck with me for a while. And she goes, he seems like the kind of guy that you could have sex with and wouldn't make you feel like a piece of shit after. And I'm like, that's game. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, that's game.
Right.
But yeah, the whole idea of being like, I know the exact fucking, I know the word, I know the frequency to talk at. If you get to lower your decibel,
I'm gonna nag a little bit. I'm gonna make fun of her for a second. Yeah. And then I'm gonna compliment her, but then I'm gonna push her away. Yeah. And then I'm gonna be like, do you want to fuck or not?
Did you ever like read those books at all?
No. I saw the late night infomercials with the guy with the big hat with peacocking and shit.
Okay, that's good. So the haircut is just kind of from something different.
The haircut is for a joke that I have in my set.
Oh, really? Yeah. And you keep the haircut?
I used to have a mullet like yours.
Why did you shave it?
Well, the lady that I was dating, am dating. I don't know what we are right now, but she. Okay. 2 reasons. One, I was working with a very big comedian that had a mullet, and Howie Mandel was like, "Yo, do you have to have a mullet to work for that dude?" And then she was also like, on our very first date, was like, "Yo, mullet's got to go."
Interesting. Why on your first date she's saying mullet's gotta go? Mm-hmm. That's a little overstep.
It's an interesting thing to think about now. Right. Like what if I was like, no. Right. Then would it have been over in a month?
It's an interesting thought, isn't it? Yeah. If the mullet, and this is my take on having a mullet. If the mullet is the buffer between you and a relationship, I don't think that relationship's necessarily going to be very strong, is it?
Yeah. I mean, looking back on it now, I'm just having this thought for the first time. It's like, sure. I loved that mullet. People would stop me in the grocery store and be like, dude, that is a fucking sweet mullet. I'm sure you get it
from time to time. Yes, absolutely.
People that appreciate mullets love mullets.
Yeah.
And I was semi-ironically rocking the mullet, but I was like a little bit of an homage to my Southern heritage. And like,
sure,
I don't like saying the word Southern heritage. That makes it sound like I have a Confederate flag on my truck or something.
Right,
but like,
it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought it was ironically funny and also non-ironically
No,
awesome.
I also understand what you mean. Like, there's certain like components to being in the South that are definitely like something that if you grew up with them, that like, you know, you would want to. I could see like wanting a mullet if you grew up in the South. You're like, oh yeah, I had like friends and family that had mullets. I want like that. That makes perfect sense. You know, it is a very funny thing because it has been. I feel, and I could be completely wrong, but I feel like the tides have completely shifted from mullets. Really used to be kind of like a good old boy thing, and now it's almost all goody two shoes coastal people, coastal hipsters. Yeah. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting.
It's like we always go back and rob the past of its style, right? The kids right now are wearing, like the high school kids right now are wearing what we were wearing in high school. I was in high school from 94 to 98.
Yeah.
And it was big Django pants and like the big, you know, high heel tennis shoes, like the dad shoes or whatever. Right. And I saw these kids crossing the street the other day wearing these big bell bottom pants, and I was like, we ironically wore 70s bell bottoms and shit in high school. So we were stealing from the 70s. Now it's 20 plus 5 years later since I've been in high school. Now the kids are going back the same amount of time. I'm just hating it for the kids in like 10 years that have to go back to like 2004 to 2012.
Oh yeah,
with the emo suspenders and the Fall Out Boy stuff.
It's so funny because obviously there were kids like that in my high school, but I grew up in Cape Cod. So truly, for many kids in my school, the height of fashion was Sperry boat shoes, pastel polos, and like kind of short,
very short,
possibly also pastel shorts. I do some personal training, and I don't train a lot of people, but one of the people is a musician, Dorian Electra. Dorian Electra is a amazing like singer, music producer. They're incredible, and they, for a music video that I was actually in, did a basically homage to the polos and Sperry's because it is such a ridiculous style. Yeah. It was so funny for me to see this thing that Dorian was basically like, oh, it's such a hyper, not like hyper masculine in the stereotypical sense, but it's like just such a bro-ish, weird, semi-aristocratic way of dressing. And I was like, and I knew the kids that dress like that.
Yeah. Like, and it trickled down the South too, because the preppy kids would pop their collar.
Yes.
We never had double collars at my school, but I heard of kids that were wearing 2 and 3 polos.
Yes. Until
they started sewing extra collars. You only have to wear one shirt, but they would sew extra collars to pop.
So funny.
Yeah, but those were the preppy kids, right? The braided brown belt, leather belt. And they, those were the kids that had money, or they were on the polo team or the soccer team, or it was just crazy.
And I remember there were, not a lot, but there were girls in my school who were like, oh my God, that's so hot. And it's so crazy to think of, because if I walked into a place, there's not a lot of styles that were in a very specific place, so in vogue, that you could walk into. I could walk into anywhere in Los Angeles wearing that outfit, and people would be like, "That's hilarious." People would immediately. There would be no consideration that that's how I actually dress, and that's so funny to me.
Yeah,
I love how quickly that became just like a ironic thing to do.
Yeah,
and
then the '80s movies portrayed it so they just solidified it. You know, like. The jock / popular kids had to wear the white tennis V-neck sweater with the twisty braids down it, with the red and blue line at the collar, and that guy was always a dick.
I always wonder, was there just like 1 or 2 writers who really got like just demolished by a kid who dressed like that? Because there is a really standard. There's a very standard bully, sort of. Not stereo. I guess stereotype. Like there's a very standard bully movie stereotype, But growing up, I talk about this a little bit in my stand-up, but it's like, I was never bullied by the most popular kids in school. You got bullied by the most popular kids in school. You're lucky that they knew who you were.
Right.
I got bullied by the loser who was one rung above me.
Same.
Yeah, that's who did it. It was a kid in a big oversized Punisher t-shirt.
That kid got bullied by bigger kids.
Yes.
And then he would come and I would get body slammed outside of the theater.
Yes.
Every day after lunch.
Yes.
And he would get a big chuckle. And I always promised myself that one day I would go back and kick his ass.
Whoa.
And I could, because I don't know exactly what he looks like right now. He's
there you go.
Big fat softball coach, and he's still in the same town. But I think that the best revenge is indifference.
Sometimes. I think people will say that, but every now and again, I see conflict as like this inherent energy that exists between two people, right? Let's say we're in traffic, right? And whatever, someone cuts you off and then gives you the finger. Now, you can choose to be if you actually are indifferent to it, that's great. But I think a lot of the times when we choose inaction in those situations, and I'm not saying like rushing to anger, and especially unjustified anger, is never okay. But I think you are left holding the weight of that social interaction, right? So I think screaming "fuck you" back at that guy, or honking your horn, or giving him the finger, a lot of people are very much like, that's not the high road. Like, we need to and it's like, okay, when I become a completely like exalted spiritual being, sure, I won't give that guy the finger. I'll be too busy, meditating on my next 2 or 3 lives. But right now, where I am, I'm gonna honk at that guy. I'm gonna tell that guy to go fuck himself, because it's like that. I think there is a level of I do. In your situation, I agree with you, because obviously going back to do something about that guy, that situation is just over, and clearly you're on to bigger and better things. But in the moment, and this is kind of going off on a tangent, but like just based on what you said, like indifference is the best thing. I think it is in certain circumstances, but I think in the moment, sometimes a justified reaction in the opposite direction, there's nothing wrong with that.
I agree. And I think what I mean more in like an interpersonal like relationship thing. So like, for example, I got broken up with by a girl on my birthday a number of years ago via text message, because she didn't like something I said the night before. I was making a joke about how, like, what'd you get me for my birthday? Did you get me a threesome? Did you bring in a friend over, whatever?
Got it.
She was kind of religious. That didn't fly with her. Woke up the next day. We're done.
How long were you seeing each other before?
Like 8 weeks. It's not a big breakup.
Okay. Still pretty brutal though.
I mean, on your birthday, come on.
Wait a day.
Right.
Wait a day.
One day.
6,
8 months, 9 months later, she sends me a very long email about how she's done the work and she's sorry for the way things ended and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what am I going to say that's really going to get her?
Wait, so she's sending you an email. Did she apologize in any way?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was just it was a clear stab at just like clearing her conscience.
I see.
This is to make me feel better. I just need you to know these things. And that should have been a phone call.
Interesting.
It was a one-sided email.
Dude, email, by the way, a lot of people who are big, long email people, nuts. Nuts. It's like, call me. I get you want to sit down and like whatever, but I think that impulse can also come from this place where it's like, well, I want to be the complete curator of exactly how I'm going to come off and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, there's something a little inhuman about it at a certain level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my only thought to her was like, no response, complete indifference.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Let her worry about.
Also, it's a person that you don't really need to engage with anymore.
Yeah.
It is a person where it's like, that's not a necessary engagement. They're not a part of your life anymore. Yeah. You're not really smoothing anything over in your future by dealing with this now.
No benefit.
No benefit.
No.
I agree with you on that front. I think, you know what, I said all that, and I think mostly what I'm talking about is specifically traffic interactions.
Yes.
You know,
which I have been noticing a lot lately, because my headliner that I'm out with right now, it just has like the most insane road rage.
Really?
And he likes to drive. Like, there's a bunch of us that are willing to drive. And if I ever get to a headliner, I'm never driving.
Yeah.
Ever. You're driving, I'm driving, he's driving. Fucking video guy's going to drive. I will not drive ever again if I ever get any money.
That's nice.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see if I get there. But he likes to drive. But he also just likes to also be on his phone, and he likes to yell at everyone. But the same things that are transgressions to him, he'll bust a U-turn in the middle of the street. He'll brake check people. It's just like, bro, you're getting all of this because you're doing all that other stuff.
Right.
And I really hope he doesn't listen to this because he'll probably get fired.
No, I mean, it's coming from a place of love. It's like if someone is acting in that sort of way, because I know a ton of people who are very, very aggressive drivers. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it doesn't really bleed into other parts of their lives either. Sometimes they're a completely nice person. They do everything right, and then it just so happens like they've gotten into a habit of being a little bit of a menace behind the wheel, and that's the way it goes. But when it comes to that sort of like the anger behind the wheel, it does to me sort of seem like this frustration from other things coming out here. Like, I think honestly, and this is getting a little bit, I think the fact that in a lot of American cities, we have really bad public transportation, and a lot of people are forced to drive in situations where it's like driving in Los Angeles is, and it's been talked about all the time, but it's not really talked about in this context, should not be the way it is. Mm-mm. I mean, we may be too far gone now. It may be really hard to get better public transportation. I think we could improve the stuff we already have, like truly. But when it comes to navigating the city, people are always like, LA, it's a car city. It's not a car. It's the worst city to drive a car in. Mm-hmm. It's a really bad city to have a car in. But we're forced to do it because of, failure in public systems. So I think there's a little bit of frustration there. Like when you look at your phone and you look, it's 45 minutes to get to a place that's like 10 miles away or whatever, you get mad, and then that anger comes out at something that is tangible. That's a very normal experience where frustrations come out on someone that will have to absorb your anger. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yes, and you feel the safety of your car bubble.
Right.
Like I can throw these wherever I want to, and they're just going to stay inside the car.
Yes.
And I'm just getting this out, and it's fine. Like somebody, like full on, I was coming down the street today. Someone pulls up and they like brake check, and then they turn left in front of me anyway. And that to me was like, dude, you knew better. You knew better. You hit the brakes. I was coming. I had to slow my car way down. You almost got me in a wreck. Right. He got a finger for sure.
Yeah.
And then he beeped at me.
Right. That's that kind of energy exchange. But it's so funny because I'm a big worrier. Mm-hmm. I've learned this about myself because I used to not think I was, but I'm sort of slowly realizing I am. And like one time I was in Glendale, and there was a car that was in front of me that the light went green and didn't go. And instead I thought I was doing the right thing. Instead of honking, I just turned to go away, and then he kind of wakes up and he turns. And my car is there, which he wasn't expecting, which is a crazy move. Mm-hmm. And he starts like laying on the horn and following me. And my first thought, this is so crazy, is he's going to remember my license plate number and find me and murder me. I don't know why, but my like cycle of anxiety really really went there. So I'm very non-confrontational because I think like my anxieties do sort of get in the way of actually like getting into a lot of confrontations like that. Mm-hmm. But every now and again, like I think beeping a horn, that's fine.
Yeah. I think there's two ways to beep a horn.
I don't think I've ever given anyone the middle finger.
Really?
I don't think I've ever. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I'm from Boston.
Yeah.
I'm from that area.
Crazy.
I've never given someone the middle finger.
I like to give them a thumbs up now because I think it's way more condescending.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's like, you're doing great, bud.
I wonder what other or like the hook 'em horns where they're just like, what does that even mean? Yeah.
Party on Wayne.
Yeah. Just confuse them.
And then like, am I doing a good job?
Yeah. Does that guy love me?
Yeah. I wish our cars could communicate messages to other cars, because I would just be sending people the most passive aggressive shit. And I'm like, man, proud of you, son.
I would do. Yeah, I think doing so. Like, I think giving a middle finger with one hand and then crossing your fingers like this, and they're like, "What do you?
Hope you're fucked.
Do you not mean that?"
That's really funny.
Yeah,
man. Do you Do you feel like, because you said you're a personal trainer.
Yeah, I did for a while.
But do you still exercise now?
Oh, yeah.
Does that help with your anxiety?
Physically, yes. Like I get some physical anxiety too. But a lot, it doesn't necessarily help a little bit with the thoughts, but not a ton. Like I'll still kind of have it. I think it's like catastrophic thinking. I'll still have that a little bit.
Yeah. I have hyper intrusive thoughts in the morning for the first 2 hours if I don't work out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's usually in the shower. It's like, okay, this dude did something very nominal, and I'm plotting how I'm going to bury his body for like 2.5 hours in the morning.
Interesting. And now, while these thoughts are happening, because they're happening for so long, do you have the ability to catch them and go, this is crazy?
In the moment, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is like a waste of my day.
But the thoughts feel like they're coming in from another place, kind of.
It's usually something like one subject will take over for multiple months at a time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like I had a specific issue with a gentleman in my neighborhood that almost got physical. And every day I was like...
You can't go into detail, can you?
I mean, he doesn't listen to this show. Neither does anybody in my neighborhood. Yeah. But I talked a little shit.
Okay.
To someone who I did not think knew him.
Got it.
And then I saw their face change. And I was like, you know him, don't you? And it ended up being someone that was very closely associated with him. So I tried to get out in front of it. I saw him at the bar later. And I was like, I was talking shit about you, man to man. I apologize. Week later.
Great. Oh, that's really great.
I did that.
Yeah, that's great.
It escalated. Because he started thinking about it. Right. Then a week later, we kind of had it out. And then it was like a fucking don't come near me, I won't come near you kind of shit. But we've since patched it up.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's really funny because I think so many people talk shit. Like so many people, like what is said behind closed doors about us, I think would really probably upset us if we knew what it was. But when you're talking shit about someone, I think there's this understanding. And I try to look at it from the other person's perspective where it's like, I don't even necessarily think it's an unhealthy impulse. I think there is a level of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's like you're getting it out of your system, catharsis with it. Like, yeah. I think it's sort of cathartic where you're not subjecting this other person to all of your like little nitpicky things. You're just telling them to someone else, being like, yeah.
That's what I think the definition of a friend is.
Right.
It's someone who you can talk shit about other people with.
Yeah, I did that. I was in the car with another comedian. And it's not even, I wasn't even talking about a guy I don't like. I was just talking about like a weird interaction that I had with a guy and how I think he handled it poorly. And I was just like, yeah, dude, it's so crazy that you would just like crumble like that, like in that situation. And I'm just talking and talking. And then I finished and then there's like silence in the car. And then the comic I was talking to was like, that's actually my best friend. And I was like,
that happened to me this weekend. We were at a club in Arkansas, and it was one of those clubs where the owner wants to go up first, and do his little announcements, and he has one joke, and it's like whatever.
Sure.
But our feature was sick, so he didn't travel with us. We got a local feature from Dallas. The club hired the feature, but this feature was also friends with our other feature because he's from Dallas. That's confusing. I was talking shit to her about the club owner. And then in the middle of it, I was like, oh, she got hired by him. She features here all the time.
Yeah.
She's going to talk to him about what I'm saying. And then I realized I didn't give a fuck because I was in the middle of Arkansas and I was never going to that club again.
Yeah. I also think, like, you need to... it's hard because I think a lot of people don't have a lot of people they trust, you know? But I think shit-talking maybe should be reserved to the people that you know you really trust. And that, like, I really do. It's almost like sex where it's like you can do it with anyone and there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but I think you should at least be doing it with people you trust. Personally. Now, there's some people where it's like they live kind of a more open lifestyle and they'll talk shit. I mean, there's people who will talk shit about other people to me where I'm like, whoa, really?
Yeah.
Like, me? You're gonna... Yeah. I'm just, like, we just met, but...
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
I feel out the room, like, who can I talk shit with and to and from and about and, like...
Right.
And then as I'm getting older, I'm like, you know, yeah, they are making more people, but, like, there's not... The comedy community is very small.
It's very, very small. It's smaller than you think, too.
Yeah. Which surprises me when Monterey brings up people that I haven't met yet.
Yeah.
Because we're just meeting today.
Just meeting today, yeah.
Yeah. But she keeps pulling out all these magical people out of her hat. And I'm like, I thought I met everyone.
Yeah, well, she knows. I mean, she's just been in so many circles and stuff that she has this like pretty broad understanding of like LA comedy specifically. But yeah, and also it's like sometimes you won't know somebody, and then when you get to know them, you realize they know a bunch of people you know. So just one of those things where you gotta just like, when it comes to talking shit, it's like I'm not here again. I don't like this. I'm above it kind of shit. It's like maybe you are, and that's great for you. It's certainly not the norm.
No.
It's saying people shouldn't talk shit is like abstinence only sex education in schools. It's like you are only going to do damage because you're not teaching people how to do this right.
Right.
Like, would things be safer if people never talk shit? Sure. It would be safer if we all fucking walked around with helmets too. Yeah. But that's just not the way the world works.
That's right. That's fun.
But just kind of teaching people, like, in a lot of situations, especially in professional settings, you should be pretty certain that this person because sometimes, dude, I've been tricked before. Mm-hmm. I've been lulled into a sense of false security where I'm talking to somebody and they bring up someone that maybe I don't dislike, but I have like a couple of issues with.
Like a bone to pick, yeah.
Yeah, and they start talking about them, and it hits that like part of your lizard brain where it's like, oh yeah, now I get to get a little validation on my opinions, and you start talking shit with this person and da-da-da. And then the next thing you know, it's like, did you say something to Charlie about me? And I'm like, well, but Charlie said, and it's
he started it.
But it's because I didn't do the work of like making sure I trust this person.
You didn't
first.
vet them.
Didn't vet them.
That's very common on film sets. It's a really good way to bond with somebody. It's just like, man, this shit sucks, huh? Because you're there for like 14 hours a day or whatever, and you're just like, let's find something to bitch about.
Right.
But it can turn the whole set like negative.
Yeah.
I realized a couple years into my career, I was like, the first thing that I'm saying to people in the morning is like, fuck this, right?
Yeah,
it's like, no.
Fuck the producer, fuck the director, or whatever. Yeah.
And that's not a tone that you want to set, especially in like a leadership position. Like, then everybody's like, oh, I don't really like working with that guy. He's like a rain cloud, you know?
Yeah, man. I forget who said this, but there's another side of that too, which I really love, which is when you don't really know someone, they don't really know you, and then you realize you both feel the same way about somebody, and you're like, oh, this is the bad. Yeah. It's like there's also, I think there have been common enemies within the comedy community, and I'm not talking about people who are just like, I honestly, as far as people who are quote unquote, because it's all subjective, quote unquote bad at stand up, but there are people who like underperform on shows, I would say. Okay. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like maybe they're trying something different. Maybe down the road there's a level of development. Like I'm always very non-judgmental with those people. Yeah. And I always also feel like I'm a comic. I'm not like a hall monitor. It's not my job to say who should and shouldn't be in stand-up. I really feel
there are a lot of comedy police.
There's a lot of comedy police. And also there's where it's like I'm like 7 or 8 years in, right? Which might sound like a decent amount of time for other people, but it's like, it's just not.
I think that's bullshit.
You don't think so?
I think it's total bullshit for someone to go, how many years have you been doing it? And you're asking me if how good I am.
Yeah. If they're shaming you, I agree with you on that, but I'm saying like to get a level, there's good people and then there's like mastery. And I've never seen a person who has a level of mastery that hasn't been doing it for like quite a long time.
Sure, because it does take an enormous amount of sets.
Right, an enormous amount of sets to just see enough audiences. So it's like, so I say that to say this. I'm not talking about like a share, but there's people in the comedy community that are like not only underperforming on stage, but are also just like mean, vindictive, like racist, homophobic, whatever things you want to put on it, but like are legitimately kind of like rotten.
And they hide it behind shock.
And they'll hide it, but sometimes they will. But it's like me and my friends, there's like a couple of people that so this idea is not mine, but it's the idea where it's like, I wish I could thank those people. Because it's like, you did so much you gave me and this guy so much to talk shit about, and now we're friends about it. Like, you really did a lot for us,
You gave me a new friend.
There's a lot of pieces of shit out there that I want to be like, still fuck you, but also you did a lot for my friendship with like Cooper or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you did a lot for our friendship by just existing as the piece of shit you are.
Yeah, that's my favorite revenge is just letting someone live their life. You know, it's like, you keep doing you, man.
Yeah, I mean, usually it works too.
Yeah. You leave anybody alone long enough. Because there's, God knows there's, if we help each other, we can all get to where we want to go faster. So if you leave somebody out of that train,
sure,
you leave them off your show 1 or 2 times, or maybe they decide to quit. I don't know.
Sure.
I feel like this is kind of inside of comedy, but
okay.
No, I'm not. It's all good.
No,
this
listen.
is an inside comedy kind of crowd.
I rarely talk about anything people care about.
Oh,
so
okay. Same.
If you feel like we're veering off the tracks, you let me know.
No,
I'll talk about whatever.
This is exactly where we want to be.
Let's get into the economy.
Okay,
folks.
I don't know anything about the economy.
Hyper-stagflation.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, did you just make that up?
I think stagflation is a thing. I don't know what it means though.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought inflation was going to be bullshit, but once they printed like $8 trillion and gave us free money and made us stay home for a couple of years, I was like, well, something has to change later. Like we got to pay for this at some point.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And then I got a half a tank of gas for $70 today.
Yeah. I feel like it's scary, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Like inflation and stuff. I really don't. I know nothing.
I'm just hoping to at some point create enough of a social media presence to sell some fucking tickets.
Yeah, that's a good goal.
Your social media is insane. It's
how do you mean?
It's very good. You got got great numbers.
I appreciate that.
Doing very well. Can you tell me about like how did you come up with the idea to do your dishes and say funny shit at the same time?
Oh, that's first of all, that's very nice of you. Second of all, I just it was a really dumb hook where I was just thinking like a lot of my friends were doing their jokes into the camera, like front-facing jokes into the camera, and I always felt that was uncomfortable. Like I felt as though it put a little bit too much pressure on the viewer in this way, where if like you're just looking straight at the eye. Like the cool thing about a comedy club is that the audience is dark, and I think that that's like a great prerequisite to a show is when like the audience knows they're not being completely seen.
Yeah.
And I think like the like looking straight at the camera, I mean, there's very funny people who do that, but for me personally, I wanted to sort of recreate a setting where people could watch but not be watched themselves. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
so I was like, oh, I'll just be doing something to take the pressure off.
It's very insightful.
Yeah, well, like, and also it's like easily recreatable, and it's like I don't need an editor to do it. I don't need anyone to help me write. I don't even have I've never used a tripod for one of those.
What do you put in your camera on?
I put it on a rice cooker.
That's funny.
Yeah, I put it on a rice cooker. I have like one of those little rice cookers with a handle, and I prop it up on the handle.
Wow.
And
you
it's like
just shoot it on your phone?
Yeah, I shoot it on my phone. Yeah.
You just edit in the app?
Edit in the app. I've never used an outside editor either. Yeah.
My shit takes so fucking long.
No, I know.
On my computer, like,
yeah, well, and it's like, I'm sure I could like get better numbers by like editing, but I have been putting more time and effort and resources into stand-up and stuff. But when it comes to that, to me, those videos, they're always up and down. Some of them do great, some of them do horrible, but that's never like my thought process is always just like, this is my kind of like comedy journal for the day. It's like, this is, and I do it most every day. Sometimes even when I don't have a great idea, but I think just putting a little bit of pressure on yourself to be like, even if I don't have a great idea today, I'm still going to film. I think that's where creativity really does come out.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I think a small level of pressure being like, well, you don't really have an idea, but you got to put something out. I get when people argue against that and they're like, oh, well, you're just going to put out crappy content. But it's like, yeah, but if all things work out, it's not going to do very well and not a lot of people are going to see it. So great.
Yeah.
So like, I like that feature too.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I like the feature of like, well, if if you put it out and no one is liking or sharing or watching it, then it's not going to get viewed by a lot of people. It's like, great.
Yeah.
I'm able to fail in silence when the videos aren't great, and I'm able to get it out to a good number of people when they're good.
The thing that drives me nuts is that when it overperforms on one platform and it gets no views on another platform.
Sure, yeah, that can happen.
It's just like, what? Why did the algorithm on Facebook pick it up and then TikTok didn't do anything with it? And so,
I think that's the thing. Is like I feel as though there's a fine line between wanting to increase your social media presence, which, by the way, people outside of comedy are trying to do that. There's muffin shops out there that are dying to increase their social media platform. Like, it is a common problem. There's a fine line between wanting to increase your social media performance and serving a robot master.
Right.
And I always try to fight against the thinking where it's like I'm serving this algorithm, or I'm just like, no, this is my like daily journal kind of. That's why, like, you know, again, would it benefit me in the short term to just try to chase after like videos that'll do super crazy well? Sure. Would it benefit my own like mind and psyche? It's like, no. And also, I think short-term thinking is very pervasive today. Yeah. Like, people are this video has to do, and it's like, there's really no thought into like doing something as a practice rather than doing something as the means to an end. Mm-hmm. I see my videos as a practice.
Yeah. And
shifting that, whether or not it helps the numbers, it helps me as like a person who's trying to, you know, in some way be a writer, in some way be a performer, you know?
Is that part of your writing process, is writing your clip for the day?
Yeah. There's many, it's never exactly the same, but there's been many like ideas that I've had, and vice versa. Like, I've had stand-up stuff that I've like taken a seed of the idea and tried to make it into a video, and I've had video ideas where I just take like a little chunk of it and I put that into the stand-up. But like, honestly, it's just the brainstorming process to think of what can I make into a video. It forces you into the thought of like premises. It forces me to sit down. My favorite thing about writing is I sit down and I have to go like, what happened to me yesterday? Because almost never do you think, what the fuck happened yesterday? And you'll say, some people think that's so simple they won't even think about it. But the second I sit down and start writing, I'm like, oh, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, there was something that's crazy that happened to me that I forgot about for whatever reason, probably because I'm not getting enough sleep, or I drink like 800 milligrams of caffeine in the morning or whatever. But like I love that. Even when I go on stage that night and the idea fucking tanks, the practice and the process of it are what I'm really worried about. And then eventually maybe something will come of it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe.
That's interesting. I always try, if something happens, I try and write it down in the moment.
Yeah.
But I never take enough descriptive notes. I'm like, yellow cat, red stoplight. And I'm like, I'll definitely know what that means tomorrow. And it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But thinking back to, like, I'll either go way back in the past or I'll go, you know, I think about the future a lot.
Yeah.
But what my comedy coach is teaching me right now is like, once you get a premise, you start asking, like, ask as many questions about it as you can. Yeah. And that's like, it's getting me to my second and third level of thinking instead of just like the first one punchline, jokes over kind of thing.
Yeah, I had a conversation with my mom not too long ago where she reminded me that she got threatened with a restraining order from my school because a teacher was putting frowny faces on my papers, and like my mom just freaked out about that. And I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And I'm still like working on it as a bit, but it's like when something strikes you like that, it really does behoove you not only to, because I think, and me included, comedians are very inherently lazy, but taking that extra kind of time to stretch an idea out and kind of see what's going on with it really helps. And just recently, my mom was at a barber with my grandma, and my grandma opened her wallet to pay by check, of course, for the haircut. And there's one picture in my grandma's wallet. My grandma has 8 grandkids, 5 kids of her own. The picture in her wallet is a picture of herself when she was younger. Wow. And that is so funny to me. Yeah. And it's like, I don't have a joke for it yet. I don't have anything, but I just love that idea. And it's fun sitting down and like just kind of trying to write something about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's not what you see coming at all.
No. It's a picture of her.
Funny,
she has a picture of herself in her wallet.
Wow.
Which is such a like modern social media thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you saw someone with a picture of themselves as their phone background, you'd be like, this guy's a fucking nutcase.
Yeah, it's like when they interview people who did Playboy in the 70s. They're like, do you have any regrets? They're like, no, I'm glad they documented that what my body
How
looked
hot
like.
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. That's nuts. Yeah, I've got one where I can't really quite find the angle on it, but my mom wanted snake boots for her birthday.
Cute.
Not boots made out of snakes. She's scared of snakes. She wanted snake-proof boots.
Oh, got it.
And there's no snakes at her house. So now I'm thinking about...
See, that's so funny. I wasn't even picturing that.
Right.
I was picturing like boots that looked like the heads of two cobras. Like I was thinking like big plush kind of slippers that looked like snakes.
Like two snake socks, yeah.
Damn, I'm fucking stupid.
No. I mean, everybody thinks it's something different.
That's true.
Yeah. I got them for her.
Oh, cool.
And she put them on. She was stuck in them for 3 days. So I don't really want to make too much fun of my mom, but like
that is really funny.
I can't find. I think the angle is that I have to send her some snakes. I got to go like put some snakes in the yard, but
so
I'm gonna work it out.
She's really afraid of snakes.
Deathly scared of snakes.
Are the snake boots like? Could you wear them around? Yeah. Like, do they look? They look like normal shoes.
I'm pretty sure she wears them to the car, which is 20 feet from her front door, and back. Because the girls that she plays cards with on Tuesdays and Thursdays get their information from a website, let's just say, is not very reputable.
Sure.
Like I ran it through a little factchecker.org or whatever, and it was like pegged out to one or the other sides of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
And for the purposes of just not pissing anybody off, I'm not going to say which side it is.
Right.
But she lives.
But if she's afraid of snakes attacking her, I think we know.
Yeah. I mean, she would say that there is an epidemic,
right,
of snakes in the town that we live in, that really she lives in.
I'm on the road recently, and there was this really funny thing. I don't watch regular news a lot,
right?
So when I do, I always think it's very funny. Both news cycles want you to stay inside. That's what I've realized.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, the common denominator between CNN and Fox is they want you to stay inside.
Yeah.
They do not want you outside. Fox ran this like really funny, like this hilarious diatribe about like liberal media, and like they're like, liberal media just wants you to stay inside, like, and they documented like, oh, you know, there was like something run where it's like in Arizona it's too hot, like you shouldn't go outside, and then in another place it's too cold, you shouldn't go outside. And it's like, do you know the segment you ran before this,
right,
where you said like, don't leave your house or you will be stabbed on the way to the car? Like it's like, no, both sides for very different reasons just seem to not want you to leave your house.
God damn it, that is such a brilliant premise, man. That's one of those like I gotta quit comedy kind of things.
Oh no.
But you know why? It's because TV is inside. They want you to keep watching TV, and they want to sell ads. And
I've never been the force and be like, oh look, CNN. Like it's never been the case.
Yeah, I think if I ever get a cabin in the woods, I'm going no internet, no TV.
That'd be sick.
Yeah,
I think it'd be hard for you to communicate with people.
I'd have a cell phone for emergencies.
Oh, you're still on TikTok?
Yeah.
So you're just watching movies on your phone. You have like 9 hours of screen time. It's like, yeah, I'm in the cabin now. Things are really good.
I should be reading.
No, I'm just saying, I don't have a TV in my apartment because my apartment's too small.
Okay.
But yeah, my screen time is still nuts.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you any fucking better than anyone else.
No.
I just can't watch long TV shows, which would, I think, be better for my brain.
Maybe.
I think so.
Man, I spend a lot of time watching TV, and then I'm like, why am I unprepared for this show that I've got on Friday? And then I get anxious to go up, and then sometimes I bail, but I'm trying to get better.
Yeah, I'm a YouTube fan just because like there's certain channels and documentary series that at least will give me stuff to talk. Like there's this, I don't even know if this will help me with anything, but it's so fucking fascinating. There's this guy, John Boyce. Have you ever heard of John Boyce? He does these incredible eccentric a lot of times mathematically based documentaries about sports.
Wow.
He does this one. It's very short. If you're listening to this, I don't make any fucking money off this, but you should watch it. It's called, if you're a sports fan, it's called Barry Bonds Without a Bat. And they do a statistical analysis of if every time Barry Bonds went to the plate, if he didn't have a bat, but the pitcher thought he had a bat, what would his batting average be? So he no longer can hit the ball, but he also doesn't swing at the ball. So if the pitcher pitched the way the pitcher pitched, but Barry Bonds could not hit the ball, what would his batting average be? And they netted it out, seeing which pitch would have been a ball that he ended up hitting, like what fourth, like he does this insane analysis. His batting average would still be the best in the league.
Wow.
It would still be like .61.
That's crazy because he got walked a lot.
He got walked because people were so scared of him.
Yeah.
He got walked so often, and even like a lot of regular, like a lot of the times when they would have thrown strikes to pitches, they're so scared of Barry that they're pitching so close to the batter's box that a lot of the times it ends up just going out. So he's getting walked so often that if instead of hitting, he just let the ball do what it did, he would still get on base an insane amount of times.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
And again, if you want to ruin a party, start talking about that. But that's the fun thing about YouTube. It'll either give you something that you'll really connect with someone over, or you will just ruin a conversation by talking about it.
I have a guy I watch every day. He's a rotational agricultural subsistence farmer in North Carolina.
Oh, cool.
So he moves. His whole thing is that like he moves the cows from one paddock to the next. He only has like 14 acres. It's kind of a small deal. Moves the cows, the sheep go behind the cows, the chickens go behind the sheep, and everybody's spreading everybody else's poop out, and it makes the grass grow better or whatever. But he's got 5 little blonde kids, and they all have chores, and that he has never gotten upset. These kids do the dumbest shit, and he's like, all right, well, today we're going to go out there and we're going to move the cows. And I watch it to go to bed. It's like ASMR.
Yeah. Well, Timmy sacrificed one of the goats. Yeah. And that's just, that's one of the miracles of life.
Yeah, I came out and I saw a pentagram and there were 7 chickens dead. And it's going to be all right.
And Timmy's little head was spinning on an axis about 5 or 6 times. And, that's just one of the miracles of life.
One of his kids broke his leg. Right.
Oh, wait, broke his leg?
Broke his own leg.
Okay, good.
Riding a motorcycle. And then the kid couldn't do his chores. So he went out and bought like really expensive heavy equipment machinery. Wow. So the kid could like
do his chores.
Still do stuff. Like he got a backhoe and a front loader and like it's nuts, man.
I love that, dude.
He dug a pond and like let the creek fill it up. Now those kids have a swing into the pond. And he's in North Carolina. It's like, dude, I could live that life. I could go get that farm.
Right. Yeah, it wouldn't be very expensive. Yeah, you think about stuff like that. But then for me personally, whenever I see a life like that, I think the prerequisite skills I would need to live that sort of a life have sort of passed me. I feel that way.
You don't feel very farmy?
I think there's a lot of stand-up comics, and a lot of them are fine people, but they have this dream of being on like a ranch.
Yeah.
Not me.
No? You like the city, huh?
For now, like I'll probably whatever at some point move, but it's like I think the city's awesome. I love like Los Angeles, obviously with like the public transit and stuff has its faults, but it's like I have so much fun. I live like right in the middle of Hollywood too, which a lot of people will pin as like being chaotic and bad. It's great.
You like it?
It's great.
No, you keep referencing public transportation. Do you take public transportation?
I bike.
Yeah.
I'll bike a lot. I mean, in LA, it's kind of tricky, but it's like, no, I have a car, and with the with work and stuff and having to do road dates, I sort of am like stuck having the car. But I would love to be in a situation where I don't need it. Like living in New York would be cool because public transit is just so accessible. Yeah. But maybe someday.
I did public transit on a bike as a production assistant in the film business for 2 years.
Whoa. Yeah. And here in
LA.
Wow. Yeah. What was that like?
It's tough because the train doesn't start till 4:30 a.m. So if you have a 5 or 6 o'clock call time somewhere downtown, right, you're gonna be late.
Right.
So a lot of times, like they'll have production trucks will be parked in the middle of Hollywood at Galpin. So I lived in the Valley. I would take the red line 2 stops in, and then bike over and throw my bike in the truck and then ride to set.
Dude, the beautiful red line. I ride that sometimes too, especially from like Union Station. And I mean, again, it's not the worst thing in the world, but every now and again, the red line's Piss City.
Oh, yeah.
It could be Piss City in there.
Yeah. I mean,
it can be.
It's a place that's publicly accessible to everyone in our town. So,
well, the real issue is like I think there's a lot of people that ride the train that should be getting help, but instead they are forced to like ride the train.
Right.
Where I go, you know what? I'm not going to start like no issue with that. I do hope eventually we get to a point where we can get those people help, and then maybe the train will lighten up a little bit.
Maybe we should put therapists on the train.
It's not a bad idea, truly. Truly, it's not a terrible idea. Get a therapist. They have like a like non-police thing now. They're like something ambassadors, and they do a great job of kind of like mitigating those things without escalating them. So that's nice. Like there's definitely steps being put in the right direction. But
would you rather be in LA and have like a non-violent homeless person on the train with you, or be in New York and have 6 people street performing and doing the stripper pole dance?
Oh my God, LA for sure.
That I get very nervous when people are like, "We're about to drop a beat," and like people are flipping through the bars, and then they want everybody to tip them, like the New York thing.
Dude, that's one of the like when you're having a bad day and then that happens, you're just like, I hope all of your dreams fail.
Yeah.
You just go, I hope everything you've ever dreamed goes bad. It really helps me as a performer, seeing those kinds of people, because I realize it's never when you're not being paid attention to, or you feel like a crowd isn't giving you what you deserve.
Yeah.
When you're in the shoes of that person walking by a street performer, you really do realize like it's almost never personal.
Right.
It almost always is like, I have to get to work, or I'm having a bad day, or like I just don't have time, like whatever.
Yeah.
You could be the greatest street performer of all time, and I think a lot of the times people would walk by you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's interesting.
Yeah, but a comedy club's like, you paid money to sit here. Enjoy it.
Yeah, but maybe you got dragged there by a boyfriend. Maybe you got dragged there by a girlfriend. Maybe you were there to see the act before, not the act here. Like, there's...
LA shows are weird like that because everybody's doing 10 or 15. It's like the person you came to see just came and went, and you might have been in the bathroom.
Right.
It's nuts.
I learned like recently, I think it's like I believe it was Argus Hamilton.
Okay.
Do you know who Argus is?
Yeah.
He said something to a friend of mine. My friend told it to me, and it's really been helpful. It really does show. When you give like sound advice, it really does have this like big, because like I think Argus didn't tell me this, but I think about it all the time. He was like, before you go on stage, look at the crowd and just like think to yourself, I love them and I want them to have a good time. And that is like, that's
brilliant.
It's so smart because you're so in your own head. You're it's like, I hope this joke goes well. I hope I do this and if I remember this, but you never think like. And I think that's not a healthy state of mind to be in. I think the healthier state of mind, look out at the audience, look at them and be like, I hope I want them to have a good, because that's true. Yeah. That's the actual outcome you want. It's not it's not for them to think you're the smartest guy ever. It's not for them to think you're like, oh my God, it's like, I want them to laugh. I want them to have a good time.
Yeah.
I love them. Like that's the idea that you should have in your head. Now, sometimes if you look at an audience and you can't compel yourself to go like, I love them, then
you can at least get to, I want them to have a good time.
I want them to have a good time. And it's like, you know what? And then it's like, that's fine, but like the show's probably not going to go so well.
Yeah. Because I've been coming at it from an ego place where it's like, I want them to laugh because I want to feel validated that I wrote a good joke.
Right.
Huh. I wonder how much of it, man, I can't wait to try that.
But really it's about that. And it's like, I think the longer I've done it, the more I've realized like, it's nice to connect to what the job actually is. And I think so often we get wrapped up in our own heads about like what we want to be perceived as and what kind of career we want. But it's like at the end of the day, like that audience that paid to go out has a job, that's their night out. Like that should be the focus. Like them having a good time should be the focus. I've seen a lot of audiences get brutalized by people who like lose that thought. And it's like, I don't always do well. I bomb like everybody else, but at least having the intention of being like, I want these people to have a good time.
Yeah.
I want these people to have a good time. Like that's the job.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's very simple. It's like, to have the audience leave being like, I had a good time tonight. That I mean, I love like avant-garde performers. I love performers that like are abrasive. I love performers that will go after an audience. Like those are really fun to watch. I'm just saying, like, me personally, that's kind of my dream, is for like audiences to leave and be like, that was a good time. Yeah. I had fun. It's so simple, but that's how I feel, you know?
Yeah, and it's so, I mean, man, it's one of those like so simple things that like you're like, why didn't I think of that? Like,
yeah, you know? No, I felt the same way when I heard it. When Cooper told me, I was like, oh, right. Yeah, that is why we do that. That is the job.
Literally nothing to do with me.
It has nothing to do with you. Yeah, I mean, it has to do with you in that, like, you should be putting, like, I think of that whenever I write in the morning, because I'll sometimes get complacent and, like, go, like, oh, I don't want to write this morning. But it's like, but it'd be better for them if I did.
Right. And it's not, it is all about them.
It's all about them.
Having an epiphany right now.
Yeah.
Like, totally enlightened me.
It's all about them.
Yeah. I wish I had that mindset this last weekend.
Yeah. I mean, listen, also, you're not perfect, and it's like you're going to lose sight of that. You're going to get, like, angry at a crowd. Like, all that stuff is just, like, part of the job. But I think having a paradigm is very important, because even if you kind of get knocked off course, you always kind of go back to that middle. And I think, like, having that middle be in a place where it's like, I want at least my audience to leave my shows being like, I had a good time.
Yeah.
That's the, and the great thing is, I love comedy, so I've had that feeling myself, and just being able to recreate that would be, when I was a kid, I saw Jim Gaffigan. He was one of the first comics I ever saw, and I remember just leaving with this feeling, and like now doing stand up, I always try to connect myself with that feeling and being like, man, if I could give someone else that feeling, that's awesome. Yeah. It's not going to I think people kind of go way off the rails being like, comedians are philosophers and comedians are blah 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 blah. But so I don't take it that seriously, but I go like, that's enough. That's good. Like, kind of the feeling you get after you eat a good cookie and you're like, that was nice. That's not going to change the world or anything, but it's a nice thing to strive for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm processing a lot.
Sure.
Yeah. Because I'm so new to all of this.
Sure.
That, like, the theory of, like, the mentality that you take onto the stage, I'm learning now that directly affects how you're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
That's almost all of it to me.
Dude, if you go up there and you're like, fuck this audience, and you're not a comic that has the skill, because there are comics who have the skill set to, like, have that mindset and to still have a fun, good set.
Yeah. There's burners. They're just burn.
Yeah, they're bad. They're the bad. They're really fun to watch. Yeah. And their audience loves that. That's the thing, is like, that particular audience might not like it, but like in like posthumously, like, looking at that, you go like, oh, that is actually like a really good set and blah blah blah. But yeah, I really do like the mental game of it is so important, because sometimes you'll have like these really shitty thought patterns that you're not aware of until you're on stage. And that's a brutal thing to like take with you in a performance space, because it's like they see you. You're not in a costume or anything. They're looking at people know how to discern whether or not someone is in a like shitty mood and has a shitty attitude. Like, people just know how to do that.
Yeah.
It's one of the basics.
Especially in LA.
Yes.
Because the audience is already sitting there with their arms crossed. It's like,
yeah, they can be. Yeah.
Be funny. And you're like, I'm doing my best.
Right.
I think the road is super important. Like, and playing in front of somebody else's audience. I think, like, because the guy that I'm with now developed his fan base from a television show.
Sure.
And it's like, they came to see him.
Sure.
And they're just waiting for their nachos. And
I always think this too, like, whenever I get up my own ass about stand-up. I was talking to a yoga teacher recently, and my dad was a yoga teacher, and I really like yoga. And she said, like, oh, yoga and comedy is like so similar. Like, and I was like, I don't think it is. She was like, why not? And I was like, well, I think a lot of people will get into yoga for like improving their overall health, or for emotional stability, or like even people who get sober will find yoga and like it'll give their life meaning. People go to a comedy club when they go to a bowling alley and there are no lanes open. And
Yeah.
then they'll be like, okay, let's go to the comedy club. Like, so just like not being up your own ass about it and being like, yeah, your job is to like entertain. And yeah, that doesn't mean that you can't be artistic about it. And honestly, like there, again, like I said, like, do you know who Stuart Lee is?
Maybe.
He's a British comic. He's so great.
Yeah.
Very avant-garde. Can be very like cutting to the audience in like a really funny way. But it's like, I'm not saying that comedy is synonymous with bowling, but I do think it kind of gets you out of this like, my stand-up needs to be so important and it needs to like, and it's like, nah, just make sure the audience is having a good time.
Yeah. That's what my first thought when I sit down to write is like, what's the most brilliant thing that could possibly come out of my brain right now? And I have to shake myself and go like,
it's ego.
Yeah.
It's ego. Yeah.
What's the silliest thing I can say right now to get me to start writing?
Right. No, that ego of wanting to be perceived as like particularly smart or whatever gets in the way.
Yeah.
It really gets in the way.
It's just a roadblock.
Right.
Speaking of roadblocks.
Yeah.
We have done an hour and 20.
Hell yeah.
And I ask everybody at the same ending question.
Oh, great. Okay.
What is the best meal you've ever had in your whole life?
I was going to Finland. So I was on this really shit. I was doing a year abroad in Sweden at the time in college, and we took a ferry to Finland. These like ferries, these cruise ships are really, really popular because you can go on them and there's really cheap booze. And the thing about Swedish people that people don't know, they're like Irish people who understood they had a problem. So like in Sweden, the liquor stores are controlled by the government, and they close at like 5 p.m.
Yeah,
because Swedish people were drunks just like many other European countries, but they had the wherewithal to be like, we're passing out in the street too much, folks. Let's get it together. But on these cruise ships, there's really cheap booze. And there's like duty free on the ships, which is a nightmare. Yeah. So people are getting blackout plastered, and they put no thought into the food of these ships. So the food is like trash. So I get on the ship at like 12 in the afternoon.
Are you performing?
No, I'm just I wasn't even doing stand up at the time. Yeah, okay. I hadn't even started yet. So the ship is like 8 hours, no food. So
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a day cruise.
It's a cruise from Sweden to Finland.
Oh, so it's a night cruise. It's not just going out for booze for
no.
booze's sake.
No. It starts in like the afternoon, and then we get there the next morning. So I haven't eaten anything at all. We get off the ship and we're like, okay, let's find food, but nothing's open because it's like 7 a.m. So we're walking the streets of Finland for another like 4 hours, and straight up walking, and I'm carrying bags and stuff. I've never been that like hungry before, and we find this little like. I believe the cuisine was like from Nepal. This little restaurant, and we go in there, and that meal. I mean, it could have. If I went back today, maybe I would have, and I'd be like, "This is mediocre." But just with how hungry I was, oh man, it was like heaven. That food was like what food should taste. I remember having that thought, like, this is what food should taste like.
Yeah.
It was just, I was so deprived, and then to have like a hot, nice meal, and we were the only people in the restaurant. It was the best.
Probably came out super fast.
Came out really fast. They had like big ass bread. The kind of stuff you want when you're really hungry, like an absurdly large piece of bread, like you see in a cartoon.
With warm butter.
Yeah, it was the best. Yeah.
I'm so hungry right now.
Yeah. Good stuff.
That's crazy. That reminds me of a time that I went to London, with the time change in the flight and whatever, and shit's closed or whatever. We ended up getting there at like 2 in the afternoon, but it was, we just passed out, because time change or whatever. We wake up, we go to this Indian place. Maybe it was Thai, I don't know. But I just remember it being, like, the experience is what resonates with me, because we were so hungry. We hadn't eaten in like 18 hours.
Right.
But that makes me think that, like, we probably, as a species, weren't meant to eat every day.
I wonder, people have made that argument with fasting.
Yeah.
But I did fast in college a little bit. But I read something about it affecting your sleep, and I'm like, sleep is the top of the food chain for me. So anything that affects that, I'm not into it.
Yeah, I had sleep apnea and insomnia for 20 years. And now it's like prioritize sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm sober curious just because of how much it'll help me sleep.
Yeah.
You sober?
I don't drink a lot. I'll have like one drink a week maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to get to that point.
Yeah.
But, Dan.
This was great.
This was awesome.
Great meeting you.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Oh, let's plug all your stuff.
Please listen to the Dancers podcast. It's spelled like answers, but with a D. But it's a bad name. Also, you can see me live in Dayton, Kentucky on October 20th and Des Moines, Iowa on the 14th, both of October.
Right.
Yes.
Sweet. Go see Dan live.
See me live.
See me live. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
See me live.
This show's a piece of shit.